All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday, July 12, Sioux Falls City Council meeting. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll go ahead and get started by reading our roll, please, Tamara.
Councilmember Starr?
Here.
Barranco?
Here.
Cole?
Here.
Jensen?
Here.
McCurris?
Here.
Neitzert?
Here.
Selberg?
Here.
Sale?
Here.
All right, with us tonight to give our invocation is Reverend Martel Spagnolo from First Congregational Church. Martel, thanks for being back with us.
My pleasure.
I'd ask that you stand for his invocation and then stay standing for our Pledge of Allegiance, please.
A reading from the book of Galatians. Just as Abraham believed God and it was reckoned to him as righteousness, so you see, those who believe are the descendants of Abraham. And the scripture, foreseeing that God would justify the Gentiles by faith, declared the gospel beforehand to Abraham, saying, all the Gentiles shall be blessed in you. Let us pray for all of us who are descendants of Abraham, be we Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or even those who are not. Baruch ato Adonai Eloheinu, Majesty of the universe, who has consecrated us with your commands and commanded us to occupy ourselves with the needs of the community and not of our own. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, Martel, for leading us to the invocation. We'll move on to item 4 as our consent agenda. Any changes to be made to our consent agenda? Take a motion.
Move to approve, Neitzert.
Second.
All right, motion by Neitzert, seconded by Barranco to approve. Any discussion on that? All right, hearing none, let's vote, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Barranco?
Yes.
Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Neitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Move ahead to item 14, our regular agenda. Can I get a motion there, please?
Move to approve, Neitzert.
Second.
All right, motion by Neitzert, seconded by Barranco. Any discussion on that? All right, let's take a vote there, please.
Councilmember Starr?
Yes.
Barranco?
Yes.
Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
Yes.
McCurris?
Yes.
Neitzert?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Sale?
Yes.
All right, that's going to pass 8-0. Before we jump into our regular agenda here, just want to preview public input for tonight. Comments are limited to 3 minutes for all of our items on the agenda unless it's being presented for final adoption, in which case public input will be limited to 5 minutes. So with that being said, we'll move on to item 15 tonight, please.
Item 15 is a second reading, an ordinance approving the annual rate increase pursuant to the franchise agreement for ground ambulance service for the city of Sioux Falls with Paramedics Logistics South Dakota LLC. Sponsor is the mayor.
Hi, Alicia.
Hi, good evening, City Council and Mayor. Alicia Kalura, Chief of Clinical Health Services for the Health Department. The agreement between the City of Sioux Falls and Patient Care EMS stipulates how ambulance service rates, fees will be set, and specifies that the annual fee increase will be the greater of 3% or the consumer pricing index for any given year. For the past year, it is ending May 22nd, it is 8.6%. This rate increase methodology was established in the original surface ambulance contract between the city and PCEMS. The REMSA board has reported that PCEMS has met their contract requirements for the preceding year, and they support your approval of an ambulance service rate increase of 8.6%.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Anyone from the public here to speak on this item tonight?
Scott Ersman, Sioux Falls. Well, with a new council here, it's probably time to remind you that you probably need to put a committee together work with REMSA to move to a public ambulance service. But a lot of things the public doesn't know already is that we already are running a public ambulance service. The problem is our public ambulance service is picking up the slack for the private company, and we get zilch from them for when we give rides. They provide the vehicles or some oddball thing like that, but trust me, it's not playing out in the money game. The city, I was glad to see move forward with using, the paramedics, the fire department. I was glad to see that the city is giving rides and doing this, because that's kind of a step forward to a public ambulance service. It's not that hard. They do it all over the country. It's pretty easy. You guys wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. You probably wouldn't even need to put a committee together. You could probably explore cities our size and what they do and how they do it. Most likely how it would work is the fire department would take over ambulance service in the city. And there'd be some overlapping, of course, probably in Brandon and smaller towns. And then he would probably use a third party to handle the insurance and those things, and then they would turn around and reimburse the city for the service. Right now, we're doing it. We're helping out a private entity, a for-profit entity, by the way, and they are not reimbursing us. I also thought that the garbage service should go that way too, but the benefits to it are there's a lot of people who don't pay. They can't pay for the ambulance. Ambulance service is atrocious, in my opinion. I can't believe how much they charge to, the fire department shows up, the police department shows up, they stabilize the patient on our dime, and then I'll see like different things downtown, and I always see the fire trucks and police there, and then the ambulance comes later and they already have the patient stabilized. So it really should explore within the next 5 years transferring over to a public system. The rates are just going to continue to go up from the private provider. But what I was going to say is the benefit of having a public ambulance service is when people cannot pay, it's a different process than what a private company does. A private company goes after them and tries to collect. Government agencies can try to get reimbursement through Medicare, Medicare and different things, or they can write it off, because, as of right now, we're giving away all kinds of free ambulance service, so you really need to explore it. You need to put a stop deadline on when to let them know as a private company, this is the date we plan on not using you anymore. And, it's a great thing for a public policy body like the city council to work on. Has many benefits. And I have heard from a lot of people who have had to use the ambulance service that they've been always very appreciative of how the fire department and the police department have treated them as patients, not so happy with the private service that gives them a ride. Somebody told me it's basically like Uber showing up after the firefighters stabilize you, and the Uber shows up to give you a ride to the hospital and then charges you $1,200. So something to think about.
Anyone else for public input on this topic?
Sarah Broussard, Sioux Falls. If I can have a council member bring up the guy that's in charge of the ambulance service, because the guy that was in charge of the ambulance service before, we go to the neighborhood association meetings and explain the cost of why they put a cost on the ambulance when they pick up patients. And if I remember correctly, those stretchers, they had new stretchers, those motorized stretchers cost thousands of dollars, and they went and they said everything that costs in that ambulance, and it got into details of how much it cost. So that stretcher costs a lot of money. Those mattresses cost a lot of money, the sheets, this, that, the other. So all of that isn't a factor. I'm trying to remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's all in the factor of when they go into the ambulance. So it's not always you're paying for them to pick up your body and to bring you to the 5 or 6 miles to Sanford or Vera Hospital. It's the cost of all of that equipment that they're handling into that thing. And it's kind of like, I don't know, Vera or Sanford has those helicopters, you know? Now it runs like a Cadillac, and they can do surgeries in there. Well, you're going to be paying for that when they picking you up from a field or something, and then they're going to have to bring you all the way to Sanford or Berry. You have to pay for all of that cost. So those helicopters are quite a bit of money. Those helicopters, I was told by somebody on the RIMSA board last week. And so it's kind of like that in the ambulance, that there's a lot of equipment, and someone has to pay for that equipment and the upkeep of that equipment here. So I think that the public needs to get educated a little bit tonight on what is the cost, not just to picking up the body, because there's more than just picking up the body and bringing them to the hospital. How much is that cost? What is involved in that ambulance, inside of that ambulance, that's costing people money that we have to pay for? It has to come from somewhere.
Anyone else speak on this topic? Evening.
Mike, is there to Sioux Falls again? I would like to know, what would it take just to tweak the ordinance a little bit? Not, I don't really think that we should make a public service type thing, but I think if we can open up the free market and allow more than one ambulance service in Sioux Falls, would that help more people than anything? I mean, as Sioux Falls grows, we're expanding out in Hartford, Lennox, Harrisburg, and all the, they all have ambulance services too. I mean, we got more than one ambulance service in this area. I'm a big fan of MedStar, so I mean, what would stop us from allowing them to come in and help us where we need extra help as well? So I think state law allows us to have agree to have more than one ambulance service with the city, and then contract out their local fire departments, services, and stuff like that. What would stop us to tweak the ordinance to, in the ordinance itself, it speaks of a scheme. So that kind of like, what kind of scheme are we really developing here? But if we want a truly free market system, what would stop us from just allowing 3, 4, or 5, allowing the mayor to enter into an agreement with multiple companies as well? I mean, why do we have to have one company from outside the state when we should be focused on in-state companies? Thanks.
All right, thanks, Mike. Anyone else here to speak on this topic tonight? All right, council, do you have any questions for staff or the PCMS folks tonight? All right, I'll take a motion. Do you have a question?
I had a quick question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councilor Bronco.
I think they were telling me it was an 11-year contract. Is that what we're operating under?
Yes, I believe that is right. The first contract was a full 5 years, and then the renewal is a 6-year renewal based on performance. That renewal occurred in 2018,
Okay.
prior to the end of the first 5 years, and it ends in 2026.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions tonight?
Move approval, Nitzert.
Second.
We have a second. Motion by Neitzer, seconded by Bronco to approve item 15. Discussion amongst the council on this one. All right, hearing none, let's take a vote, please.
Councilmember Starr,
No.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-1. Next item, please.
Item 16 is a resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, annexation 016595-2022, Tract A, Klein's Second Edition. Sponsor is the mayor.
Good evening, Jeffrey.
Good evening. Jeff Schmidt, representing Planning and Development Services on these items this evening. These are all petitioned annexations. These property owners are requesting to come into the city limits of Sioux Falls. This first one is in the southwest jurisdiction of Sioux Falls, down on West 41st Street. It is just south of West 41st Street and Ellis Road, and it is approximately 23 acres of land. It's for or for single-family residential land, and they'll have access to it from Masonic and from Lana Avenue, and it's contiguous to the city limits.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Anyone from the public who would like to speak on item 16 here? Council, any questions for Jeff on this one? All right, take a motion, please.
Move approval, Nitzert.
Second.
All right, motion by Nitzert, seconded by Bronco. Any discussion there? All right, let's take a vote, please.
Councilmember Starr,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Item 17, please.
Item 17 is a resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, annexation 016661, 2022, Tract 1 Klein's Second Edition. Sponsor is the mayor.
This is a petitioned annexation. It's just a little bit to the west of the previous one, and it is just a little to the west. So it's Lana Drive was south of this, and this is 0.04 acres of land. It's the remnant to finish off the last of this subdivision. It's RD1, so they'll finish off some twin homes on Brook and Lana, and then they'll be able to build like this last twin home development.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Anyone from the public speak on this one? Council, any questions here?
Move approval, Nitzert.
Second.
All right, motion by Nitzert, seconded by Bronco. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote on that one, please.
Councilmember Starr,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 18 is a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, correcting the legal description of annexation resolution number 4122. Sponsor is the mayor.
Thank you. This is a petition annexation, and as you may have noticed on the previous two, they were both Klein's Edition, Tract A, Tract 1. The issue I'm bringing up with this is legal descriptions are challenging, and there's a real problem with them. There always are. So we'll stand in front of you frequently and say, this is a legal description issue. So that's all we're doing. You've annexed them already. We come in, we annex the property. They're already in the city limits, but we have to correct a semantic aspect of the legal description. On this one, we annexed Lot 1 of Eatram's Tract 1, but there's an exclusion that it was the east 180 feet, which was, so we need to get back the E, which wasn't on the legal description. So we're bringing it in to make sure that everybody knows that we didn't bring in a piece that was never brought in originally. So just a clarification, it's a legal description for everybody to understand.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. Anyone from the public here to speak on item 18? Council, any questions here?
Move approval, Nitzert.
Second.
All right, motion by Nitzert, seconded by Bronco. Any discussion on that? All right, let's vote, please.
Councilmember Starr,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Council, any new business tonight? Councilor Nitzert.
Mr. Mayor, just a point of personal privilege. I want to wish, on behalf of the City Council, Denise Tucker, our Assistant City Clerk, happy birthday. I understand that she is 29 years old today, so happy birthday.
A lion politician, who would have thought? Any other new business? All right, we'll move on to general public input for our meeting tonight. 3 minutes per person on any topic. So one for public input, come on up.
Scott Ersman, Sioux Falls. Tonight I'm going to talk about dogs and how the health department needs to do an evaluation of why are we allowing dogs into restaurants. And I shouldn't say restaurants, I should say any establishment that serves food. So that can be coffee shops, bars, restaurants, etc. And I know that owners of restaurants should be able to make their own decisions, but I also look at it as a health issue. A couple weeks ago, I was eating brunch at a restaurant and a dog was licking my feet. It wasn't my dog. I went into a fast food restaurant dining room because I don't drive car a lot. I usually walk or ride my bike places. There's a pit bull just wandering around in there. Now, I don't know how we can permit dogs. Oh, there was one dog, he tipped over his water dish and decided to roll around in it in front of everybody. Now, I don't know how this can be permitted with health codes. Well, service dogs are a whole other different ball of wax. But if you ever see a service dog, what is a service dog doing? It's sitting next to its owner and it's sitting there. It's not touching anybody. It's not eating. It's not slopping water all over the place. It's not licking people's toes. I think that you need to ban pets. You have to do dogs, but pets in general in eating establishments. This city has spent millions of dollars on dog parks, recreational trails. We have been very committed to dog owners. You can take your dog to any park anywhere in this town. You can take them on the rec trail. You can take them to any park as long as you have them leashed. You can have a fence built for them in your backyard. You do not need to take them to the restaurant. They'll be okay at home for a half hour or an hour while you go eat. It needs to be looked at. I think it's a health issue. Dogs slobbering around, licking people's toes at the restaurant. It's stupid. Tripping over them. I tripped over a dog one time at a place. Another thing you guys need to look at is tightening up your ethics. This last election, candidate was given a large sum of money from somebody who is currently serving. That should be unethical and should be an ethical violation, and it should be put on the books. Because this ethics board is dysfunctional. You guys need to put it on the books. It was unnecessary and unethical. And you seriously need to review the ethics laws.
Anyone else for public input tonight?
Greetings. I'm David Zokaitis, and tonight's topic is fascism. Well, first we need a definition. It's basically a power-hungry government, and really not very nice. But there's lots of power-hungry government styles out there. There's a list. The opposite of all of them is democracy, government for us. Now, I was just browsing the internet one time and came across a fascism checklist. I thought you might find it informative. That's part 2 of the same checklist. At a different time, I came across a different checklist, and here it is. There's part 2 of it. One more time, I came across this other scary historical comparison. Compares modern America to a bad time in Germany. There's the other part, and I like the bottom of this. It says, don't worry, that could never happen here. Yet another time I was oddly browsing, I came across this picture of a Louisiana protest. Notice how terrified the government is of that solitary woman. That picture looks a little too much like this one, where the local police are also terrified of a solitary woman. Here's a bit of what happened during that recent protest. It was put down by police who used smoke bombs. It started pretty peaceful, but moved from the sidewalk to the street. And, that's not okay. Personally, I think that police should prevent violence instead of starting it. I mean, I would think that's just their job. And in my opinion, a little bit of civil disobedience, like protesting on the street, I think that's safer than militaristic police with smoke bombs. That's my opinion. And of course, since this happened about the time of the July 4th, I thought we should celebrate and protect freedom. Today, I happened to be wearing my courthouse t-shirt. On the front, it says, "People who trade freedom for security have neither." And the back says, "Illegal search by a system sworn to protect us." Here's the back. And that's why I talked about fascism rising in the government today, so we can do better.
All right, anyone else for public input tonight?
Sarah Broussard, Sioux Falls. I was in the middle of that protest. I'm not going to comment on, the police and what they should have done and what they should not do in public, but, in a situation like this, it was challenging for the police. Were they very professional? Yes. Could they have done stuff different or whatever? Yes. And I've emailed Chief Toom about this. But I'm going to tell you, if they would have done this in Chicago or Louisiana, they would have got their butts whipped with that baton. Because in Chicago and them, police brutality is still alive. And when they tell you to get off the street corner, you better get off the street corner because they're flying those sticks. Racine, Kenosha, all of these other places. So could the police could have went to that level? Absolutely, they could have went to that level. It was disgusting, especially the Black Lives Movement that wanted to start a riot, that I had to talk some sense into them in that protest, because most of them wasn't for abortion. There was maybe about 250, 300 for abortion. It's sickening. It is sickening when you see a traffic stop on West 10th Street in Grange last night, and the African Americans pulling up his hands because he don't want to be shot by the police, really, on a speeding ticket. I have it on video, seriously. We're not Minneapolis, Minnesota. We're not these other states where this protest, if they were doing it in other states, they would have got their butts beat by those batons. I can guarantee it. So they're lucky that the Midwest, South Dakota, doesn't use that force here. It's very discouraging that we had citizens swinging at the police. I can't even begin to tell you what they were telling the police. And I always said that the protest should have started at Christine Noem's house, her mansion, and in Pierre. The police had nothing to do with the abortion thing, but they wanted to come out and try to start a riot out here. That's what they wanted to do. That is nonsense. Could they would have put off smoke bombs? Yes. Could they would have put up tear gas? Yes. Could they would have hit you with rubber bullets? Yes, they could have. They could have used other tactics more than what they did. These protesters were getting in the police's face, swinging at the police. It's horrible what they were doing to the police. So thank God that we have protests here, that the police doesn't use that kind of force like other states and use that baton more than what they did. All they did was push the individuals away.
Anyone else for public input tonight? All right, seeing none, take a motion to adjourn us.
Move to adjourn, McCorris.
Second?
All right, motion by McCurris, seconded by Brock. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed?
Yes.
All right, we are adjourned. Have a good night.